Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter and I will be your host for today's show. We're going to be talking about talent management, the new board imperative. And joining me is someone who has been a partner and been on the show before. Please welcome Paul DeNicola, who is the principal with PwC's Governance Insights Center. Welcome back, Paul.
Thanks for having me, TK.
So talent management is one of those topics that everybody says is so important, but it's probably left behind a lot, okay? Meaning that there isn't enough action to support the words that are given, okay? So I know you guys at the center sort of tackled this issue by doing some research. So before we sort of get into some action steps, talk a little bit about the background for that sort of rose to get you guys to do this. How did we get to where we are today as far as companies go? And then why do we call it new?
New imperative, yeah. Well, I think there's a change that's occurred in terms of how talent is looked at by boards. And if you look back traditionally, the realm of boards was really around CEO succession and C-suite succession, but I think that has shifted to a more broad oversight role for talent throughout the organization. I think as digital transformation occurs, and every company is going through a digital transformation in some way, directors need to be sure that their companies are well positioned to execute on their strategy, which leads right back to talent. At the same time, there's significant institutional investor interest in talent. You just look at the last year, in 2019, State Street wrote a letter to the lead director of S&P 500 and FTSE 350 companies, asking them to focus on the talent issue. BlackRock similarly identified one of their engagement priorities for 2019 being culture and talent. And finally, the Human Capital Management Coalition, a group of over 20 institutional investors with over $3 trillion in assets under management, petitioned the SEC to require more disclosure by companies around their human capital metrics. So I think there's a lot of attention on the investor side, which then I think filters into the boardroom and boardroom focus.
But metrics for that space have never been easy, okay? You can't go back and say, oh, we did real good on filling the pipeline or doing that stuff. So that's I'm sure that's one of the challenges. Absolutely. Yeah. So from your research, you guys then wrote a white paper that you were involved in. And from that, what are sort of the practical action steps that a board can take to make sure that it is giving prudent oversight to talent management?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple. I think the first is around allocation of responsibility. So that's a typical question for boards in a lot of areas, but where does talent sit at the board level? When we looked at it, for the large majority of companies, talent is considered a full board activity, full board oversight. However, we are seeing the trend with about 20% of boards allocating that responsibility to the compensation committee, right? So I think the first thing the boards could do is have a clear sense of allocation as to at the board level, where does it sit, where does it belong, where does oversight lie? I think second is in the discussions around strategy more broadly, ensure each one of those discussions has a talent component. And what I mean by that is, very often when a new initiative is being proposed and discussed at the board level, there's a very specific focus on the financial implications, but not always the equally important questions around, do we have the right talent to be able to execute on this proposed strategy? I would argue that, for every new initiative that management presents, a talent portion or component of that initiative is critical and for boards to ask for. So there's the talent side. I'd say there's also the board composition side, and that is when you think about the expertise on your board, do you have talent expertise? Now, not every board needs a former head of HR on their board, but I think in thinking about board refreshment and board renewal, how are you thinking about your board composition and talent expertise? right? I think, in a related sense, we're also seeing the CHRO, the Chief Human Resources Officer role, be elevated in the boardroom. So I'm seeing, boards more frequently ask for presentations from the CHRO. The CHRO being more present at a greater number of board meetings, not the once or twice a year, but regular participation. So I think that another action item boards can take is elevating the role of the CHRO and the board visibility with the CHRO. And finally, people do what they're paid to do, right? So when you think about it from an executive compensation point of view, are you making talent, the achievement of talent targets, a KPI for executive comp? And how are comp committees thinking about that and tying compensation to talent-related metrics? So those are just a couple of the sort of concrete actions I think boards can focus on, and what can sometimes be, as you mentioned, a sort of amorphous area.
Yeah. In my travels recently, I run into a lot of directors that have really been pushing to do more social activities with the next couple layers down. They want to, like you said, either not only see presentations in the boardroom, but also have the opportunity to get to know these people better, who are going to take on key roles for the future, and it just gives them a higher level of comfort of sort of their bench.
Well, it gives them great opportunities at things like board dinners to get to know these folks outside of the context of a traditional board meeting, to understand what the bench strength of the organization is within the various C-suite functions.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this will be the last time you guys look at talent.
No, it's a huge issue for our clients right now.
Yeah. So anyway, Paul, thanks for coming and giving us the update and some of your research, and we'll look forward to having you back again.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
And that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.